Hey Birdland, how are we? In today's episode, we have another special guest. My guest was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Michael went to college at Penn State. He has been the play-by-play announcer, but for the University of Delaware softball, baseball, lacrosse, soccer, volleyball, and field hockey teams. Really amazing. Nowadays, Michael is the play-by-play announcer for the Orioles High A farm team, the Aberdeen Ironbirds. Please welcome Mr. Marcantonini to the show.
Hey, what's up, Justin? Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for coming on. I always do trivia of the week. So before we hop into content, here's my trivia question. What team did Jordan Westbrook debut against? The Twins, the Reds, the Yankees, or the White Sox? Do you remember?
Yes, I do, because I was at the game. So my answer is B, the Reds.
Okay. I was actually at the game too. That's actually crazy. As my listeners know, I will reveal the answer at the end of the episode. With that, how about we start with Holiday's debut? Just go between that. Holiday would have his major league debut on the 10th of April against the Red Sox at Fenway Park. Didn't have the best debut game against the Sox. He would go 0 for 4 with 1 RBI. In that Boston series, he combined for 0 for 8. It doesn't really say anything, though, in my opinion. On the 19th of April against the Brewers, Holiday would have his home debut, really electric. In his home debut against the Brewers, 0 for 3. On Sunday the 21st, he would get his first major league hit. So far, this is probably Holiday's biggest highlight in the MLB. So what was your favorite highlight of him when he was in Aberdeen?
Yeah, so when Jackson was in Aberdeen, I mean, he had so many big moments. He was only there about 2 months. It was really a quick stint there. But my favorite, by far, was when he hit a walk-off bomb late June. It was June 30th. And I'll always remember the date because it was just such an awesome moment. But hits a walk-off, and, I made at that point what was the best call of my career. So for sure, that is by far my favorite Jackson memory in Aberdeen.
I also do got to say, before this, I was listening to the YouTube with I think Creed Willems. You had clips of other reels of people you're talking to. You asked amazing questions that are actually really interesting. So thank you.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, that's the goal, is just, ask questions that are fun and, get these guys, laughing, joking around, and, having fun with it.
So there's a picture of you sitting down with Holiday, and I'm guessing that was from an interview. When you sat down with him, what did you guys talk about?
Yeah, so Jackson joined me for episode 3 of my All Mic'd Up interview series last year. And with that series, my goal is really to show who these players are as people and not just as athletes. I mean, we're all people, we're all humans. And, yes, they're getting paid to play baseball. That's their career and that's their job, but they're people, and really, I just want to get to know who these guys are. I want to show our fans who they are. And that's really what I try to do with the interviews. So I try to ask questions to get away from talking about baseball. I'm not asking these guys in these interviews, hey, what was your approach on that 3-2 pitch in this situation? Or what were you looking for in this counter? Tell me about your pitch mix, things like that. There's a time and place for those kind of interviews. But with these, I'm asking about their family, growing up, what other sports they played, what are their hobbies off the field, what they like to do, asking them, tell me something that you're really good at that other people don't know, or, what are your favorite things to do off the field, things like that, because I want these guys to feel comfortable around me. I want them to know that I'm trying to tell their stories. And so Jackson sat down with me for that interview, and we talked about a bunch of different stuff. I asked him what he likes to do off the field. I asked him questions like, what was your favorite subject in school? He said baseball. So that was a funny answer. Things like, what are you good at that people don't know about? And he said pickleball, which is really cool. I found out he plays pickleball with his dad, and they go back and forth. They're really competitive with it. Asking him, who in his life has helped him get to where he is that maybe most people don't know about. Fun questions like that. Asked him what his favorite foods are. And it was just trying to get his mind off of baseball and all these guys' minds off of the baseball details, and just have fun with talking about other stuff about their lives.
So I do got to say, again, in your YouTube reels, I don't know the player. You were asking a player about like his, I guess, life or whatever. He was talking about like how his mom and I think his grandma weren't in like the best like health state. And you could see the emotion from the player. But to me personally, I think you probably have really good connections with them that they could show their emotion. So first off, congratulations on that. But how do you get to the level of emotionality with these players?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just showing these players that you care about them. Doing these interviews, like the goal is, yes, I want to get exposure for, my own work, and I want people to watch my content, and I want to get better at hosting interviews and my on-camera presence. But really, I want it to be mutually beneficial. I want to tell these guys stories. I want them to get some practice doing interviews because, at the minor league level, you're not doing nearly as much media stuff as when a lot of these guys will when they get to the big league. So I want them to be comfortable. I want them to be comfortable around me, knowing that, I'm only trying to help them in a positive way. This interview is not to get some answer that's going to draw a lot of views and get people going back and forth on social media about a controversial answer. No, I'm looking to get fun answers. I want them to be able to connect with fans. I want their families to see them doing these interviews and to hear them talking about other stuff besides what they're doing out on the baseball field. So I think just showing them that, showing them who I am as a person, showing them my vulnerable side, and just showing them that the main thing is that this could be mutually beneficial for us, and it's fun on both ends.
So I know you asked Holiday, I think, about a question with McCann. Or no, it was Creed, I think. You asked about McCann. You talked about the ping pong table. So my question for you is, have you ever played ping pong on that table?
I have not played on that ping pong table, but I've been in the clubhouse. I've watched guys play on it. I've talked to them about it. But it's just pretty cool. Yeah, last year James McCann started the season with us because he was rehabbing when we had our first home series, and yeah, he was looking to do something, cool for the team. I mean, that's a big thing when major leaguers rehab in the minor leagues. They like to hook the team up with something, whether it's like a meal spread or, I've heard of guys giving pairs of everybody a pair of cleats or a pair of sneakers, things like that. But McCann said, "Hey, you guys got a great food spread down here in Aberdeen. They take care of you with that. So I want to do something cool and that everybody can use and benefit from. So we got a ping pong table for the clubhouse, and the guys love it. They play it every day."
That's so cool. So when talking to Holiday, how does he hold his composure? I mean, I know like you can see him hold his composure at the plate, but when he's holding a conversation, how does he hold his composure?
Yeah, I mean, he really, really impressed me with really the way he carries himself in every situation, on the field, off the field. I mean, he knows what it's like dealing with media because his dad had to deal with it for, 15 years in the big leagues. And, he grew up understanding, hey, look, if this is going to be my life and I'm going to be a professional baseball player and I'm going to be this good, this young, everybody's going to want a piece of me and doing interviews. And it's just a regular thing for him. It's part of his daily life is doing these interviews. He gets so many requests. So, he handled himself so professionally, and I really enjoyed getting a chance to interview him a couple times and really thankful for the time that he gave me to do those interviews.
So besides his baseball skills, about Holiday's character, what stood out to you?
I think just that he's really humble. I mean, he knows how good he is. Let's be honest. Like he understands that for most of his life, maybe all of his life to this point, he's been the best player on every team he's played on. Now that's a little bit different in the big leagues. I think he will get to that point where he's consistently the best player on all the teams that he plays on. But he knows how good he is, but he also knows that he needs to continue to put in work to get better because he's going to need to step his game up at the higher levels and at the highest level right now. So I think that's what I noticed. Very humble, a quiet confidence. So, he's very confident in his abilities, but he doesn't show up anybody, and he's not out there to showboat and bat flip on a pitcher and take 40 seconds to round the bases. He's going to put his head down and jog home, get in the dugout. So just really professional in every sense.
That's so cool. Especially players like him, like at the age of like 20, like
Yeah.
the way they develop that quick is really like mind-boggling. So I know you went to Australia. You did play-by-play there. What league did you do play-by-play for?
So I was calling games in the Australian Baseball League, and that was an awesome experience going out there and, getting a chance to get better at broadcasting, call more games, get reps doing that, experience a new country on the other side of the world and a new culture, and get to explore different cities, check out different beaches, try new foods, see all the different wildlife out there. It was just such an awesome experience, the best experience I've had in my life.
What was your favorite part about Australia?
Favorite part was, I mean, the baseball was fun, but just the aspect that every day I got a chance to do something new and different. So, when I had time away from the baseball field, my goal was to see something new all the time. Go to a different beach, go to a different part of the city, try a different restaurant, things like that. Travel to different cities within Australia. So I think just the excitement of waking up every day, knowing that I was going to do something different than I've ever done before, and I was exploring everything out there was new to me. So just kind of that was just that little extra adrenaline rush. It was awesome.
Talking about like differences in Australia. So I don't know if you know this, but I was the IEHL equipment manager, Israel Elite Hockey League.
Okay.
I went to Kent State my first year of college. So I worked with the men's hockey team there. I'm Jewish, so me and my two buddies from the hockey team, we went to the IEHL. We worked there. Or I worked there for them as the equipment manager. In Israel, the players, like the Russian players, the Jewish players, they like always fight. From what I saw, they're so aggressive, mainly because they don't get playing time as much. Did you see any differences in the Australian league from like the MLB or Aberdeen?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different out there. About half the league is native Australians, and the other half is what they call imports, guys coming from the United States or some of the Latin countries, or some of the Asian countries, Canada, wherever. But it's a lot of local native Australian baseball players, and I think there's passion on a different level, because these guys, a lot of the guys out there play on national teams together. A lot of the guys that were with the Aces played on the Team Australia WBC team, and other guys throughout the league are on that team as well. So these guys have grown up playing with and against each other, and they're so passionate about playing for Australia and in Australia, that I think you definitely see that fire from the Australian players. And it leads to some chirping back and forth. It leads to some bench clearing altercations. So it's definitely apparent. But Aussies, for the most part, they're fiery people. They're passionate. But you could say the same about Americans or people from anywhere. But it's just the way they show the passion, and the way they handle business on a field out there, maybe a little differently than here. But it was just very cool to see, and I really like the edge that a lot of those guys play with, and it's a completely positive thing, because those guys are so passionate about what they do.
I find it so cool, like seeing differences in sports between like two different countries. Was there any amazing foods that you tried in Australia?
So in Australia, there's not a ton of food that is like straight up Australian food. It's kind of a melting pot of foods from different cultures. There's a very heavy Asian influence in Australia because of just where Australia is located on the map. There's definitely a little bit of a British influence because of, the country's origins. But one of the big things in Australia, they have meat pies and sausage rolls are very Australian foods. And I did not like the meat pies. That was not my thing. It was a little bit different than like a pot pie in the States, but it was just not my thing. I tried one, just didn't like it. Sausage rolls were incredible though. And it was simple. It was just this, seasoned, type of sausage with like a croissant or flaky pastry dough around it and some seasoning on top of that. But a lot of the food in Australia is a lot fresher and more natural than we get in the States, which is unfortunate for us in the States. But some of the meats and like eggs, fruit, things like that just tasted fresher out there. So the sausage rolls, the combination of the pastry around it and the sausage itself, very good.
I gotta ask, when people think of Australia, they think of kangaroos. How many kangaroos do you see daily? Average, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't see a ton because the city that I was in Melbourne, and it's a big city. It's like like, Chicago or New York in Australia. It's one of the biggest cities. So there aren't kangaroos really roaming the cities. It's more on the outskirts. But I saw kangaroos in wildlife sanctuaries, driving, out in the country a little bit. Kangaroos are like deer out there. So for as many deer as we see here, it's like there's more kangaroos out in Australia.
That's so cool. I'd rather see a kangaroo instead of a deer.
Kangaroos are cool. I will say. I mean, they can be intimidating, but they're cool.
So in Australia, did you learn anything from broadcasting, play-by-play, that you couldn't learn in America or that you didn't learn in America?
I don't think I learned anything specifically there that I wouldn't have here or didn't hear. I just know that I had a chance to call 20 extra baseball games, calling all our home games, and I wouldn't have had those reps in the States, because when the Australian Baseball League, it's their spring and summer out there when it's our fall and winter back home. So to be able to get baseball reps in a non-baseball season back home in the States, I got better. I had fun, and I figured out different ways to mix certain things into a broadcast. But definitely, I don't think there was anything that I did or learned out there that I wouldn't have here.
So in your reels, another question that got me off guard, you asked how many games did you play this season to one of the Australian people? And you were like, both of us played in 165 games. And he's like, yeah, I played all of them.
Yeah.
I thought that was so creative. Again, credit to you for that.
Yeah, that was Ryan Lavarnway, big league veteran, won a World Series with the Red Sox. But yeah, he played 165 big league games, and I was like, yeah, me and him, we combined for that many. And I'm like, Ryan, how many did you play of those? He's like, all of them. So I mean, that was, I thought of that right before the interview, and it made for a really cool intro to it.
So there are questions that I guess can catch players off guard. Have there ever been answers that caught you off guard?
Yeah, I mean, there's been answers that I maybe wasn't expecting from guys, but I think I'm at the point now where the way I ask questions, I structure the question so I get more detailed, deeper answers, which can lead to some wild answers at times. But I think I've worked on my listening skills during the interview to a point where, if somebody says something, it probably isn't going to catch me too off guard. But there's been times where I've asked questions and I was expecting a longer answer and got a really short one, and then kind of was like, I guess I got to move on to my next question or try to follow up on that to get a better answer. But I've definitely never been like stunned by an answer that I've gotten.
I honestly feel like as a broadcaster, like in my position, I'd probably get stunned. I mean, you have a lot more experience than I do, though, so credit again for you for that. So I know a lot of people know you by your voice. They don't know who you are and how you got to where you are today. So where did you start and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so the initial interest in broadcasting for me, it started when I went to a sports broadcasting camp when I was in middle school. And from there, I kept going back every summer. It was a 1-week camp in the Philadelphia area. And that's where I really got to learn what was involved with sports broadcasting. I mean, how many different things you could do with it, what a career in sports broadcasting would look like. So, I'd always been so passionate about sports, and really from a young age, I knew that whenever it was time to, grow up and have a career, I wanted it to be something fun and to be around sports. And I wanted to wake up every day excited about what I was doing for work. And, it's a tough industry to be in. And, I didn't know when I was that young how tough it is, how you're not making a lot of money early on. You're working a lot of long hours. You're away from your family and friends. You may have to move across the country multiple times, which I've done. I've lived in 5 different US states, and I've been out in Australia. So, I've made a lot of sacrifices in my life to do this, but, I was just so passionate about sports that I just wanted to continue to pursue it. It was not a linear path to success. I've had a lot of ups and downs, at times more downs than ups, but, I've never lost my confidence. I've never lost my passion for what I'm doing. I will say I have lost my confidence at times, but I've been able to build that back up because I've never lost the passion and drive to keep going. So, when I got to high school, I knew I wanted to continue to pursue broadcast stuff. So I did the high school TV morning announcements. I wrote for the student newspaper. I played on the baseball team, but I broadcast some of our football and basketball games, doing play-by-play for that in high school. And then I knew I wanted to major in it in college. And at Penn State, I got so many great opportunities and just wanted to get as many reps as I could. So I just, kept pursuing it, got a job calling games in the Northwoods League, a summer collegiate baseball league, which led to my first gig in pro ball, which led to my second gig in pro ball. And, the pandemic kind of messed up a lot of things for me. But on the flip side of the pandemic, I put in a lot of work, and got some help from people, and timing, worked out on a lot of things. And, to get to where I am now, it took a lot of hard work and perseverance, but, I'm not nearly where I want to be. So I'm still working at it, and I want to keep going.
So you talked about passion. I kind of want to ask, like, what made you want to be a play-by-play announcer? And like, when you were a kid, did you have any dreams, like, not besides being a play-by-play announcer, like interviewing someone like not spectacular, but special, or that like an exact person? And have you filled those dreams?
Yeah. So I figured out in high school that I think play-by-play was something that I wanted to pursue more of. I realized in college that I think that was definitely my route. It's what I'm most excited to do broadcast wise. I like doing a lot of the other things within sports broadcasting, but calling play-by-play, reacting live to what's happening out on a field, there's just nothing like that adrenaline rush of having that headset on and being at the ballpark and feeling the crowd energy and all that. So that's kind of when I realized that's what I wanted to pursue. But in terms of interviews and like goals like that, I don't know that I was ever like, hey, like if I ever get a chance to interview this person, like, that's the dream right here. I mean, I'm a huge Derek Jeter fan growing up. So if I could interview Derek Jeter someday, that would be awesome. Mike Trout, Cole Hamels, and anybody from some of those Phillies teams that I grew up watching in the Philly area. Michael Young I'm a big fan of Michael Young from a lot of years with the Rangers. So guys like that were my favorite players growing up would be awesome to interview. I think I'd probably put Derek Jeter at the top. And yeah, I mean, I think the dream for any play-by-play broadcaster in baseball is to call the final out of a World Series for your squad and get that ring someday. So that is my dream of all dreams, to do that.
So I know the Ironbirds had, I think it was 2022, 2023, the championship season. You called that, right?
Yeah. So I was there at the end of that season for the run.
So what did you think about calling that? I mean, it's not a World Series, but it's still a championship series. And you were talking about energy. So I'm trying to pick your brain about this. With the energy and the atmosphere, how did that affect you? And did it affect your play-by-play in talking about plays and like excitement?
No, I think I was just so ready for that moment, locked in. It was my first time calling playoff baseball in professional baseball. So, I was just so hyped up and ready. I was prepared with, the notes and information that I needed going into the broadcasts. And I was just excited. I was ready to have fun because, I didn't have a job in baseball to start that season. I hadn't worked in baseball in almost 3 years, leading up to when I got that Aberdeen gig to end the 2022 season. And then I'm getting a chance to call a championship series. I called the first playoff win in Ironbirds history. I called the first playoff series win in Ironbirds history, their first trip to a championship series. And it's a franchise that had been around for over 20 years at that point. So it was just so special to be a part of it that I was just so locked in and ready. And it definitely brought out the best in my play-by-play for those games.
So that is probably Ironbirds history. I mean, you got to call the first playoff moment or like playoff series win in Ironbirds history. How does it feel to be in Ironbirds history in that type of way?
Yeah, it's really cool. Like I said, I'm just so grateful for that opportunity. I know what it took to get there. I know, I remember all the days where I was so frustrated with things not going well in my career that it made me appreciate those moments more. And it's just very cool to, it's always going to be my voice whenever those clips circulate for the first ever Ironbirds playoff win, their first series win, their first trip to the championship series. That's going to be my voice on those clips. And that's special to think about.
So, as you know, I'm a Towson student. I want to do something with communication, sports analytics. I know we were talking about like Melanie Newman, that type of stuff. What advice would you give to me as a college student?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just get as many reps as you can, and also get reps doing different things within broadcasting. So like for me, I knew in college that I wanted to pursue play-by-play, but I still got reps doing on-camera TV show hosting, sports talk radio, interviews, production stuff, social media. So it's just great to become a versatile candidate for when you're applying for jobs and being able to say you have experience in so many different areas. And just have fun with it. Let your true passion for sports come out, when you pursue these jobs and internships and even if it's just stuff you're doing locally on campus. But don't ever forget why you got into it in the first place.
So talking about that, why did you end up getting into broadcasting? I mean, I know you said because I wanted to, but why did you want to behind that?
Yeah, I think it was just pursuing something that I was truly passionate about. And, I knew I didn't want to just sit behind a desk and, wear a suit and tie and sit in a cubicle for 8 hours a day and, work that 9 to 5 life and have it be the same thing every day. And, when I wake up in the morning, just worrying about when 5 o'clock was going to hit and I can punch out. I didn't want that. I wanted to be around a baseball field. I wanted sports to be a part of my work life, not just my personal and social life. And it's been very rewarding and fulfilling. It's been tough at times. Like I said, I've made a lot of sacrifices in this career path, but I think it's been worth it because I know how I feel on a day-to-day basis going to a ballpark to call a game, doing prep work, interviews, things like that. Like, I'm so excited to do it. And I get that. It's almost like I get the butterflies in my stomach, like not like a nervous thing, but like an excited feeling. And, I don't want that to go away.
So who inspired you to be where you are today?
There's a lot of people. My parents with the support that they've given me over the years, both, emotionally, financially. My brother has been awesome in terms of supporting my career. The rest of my family, my close friends. It's been special to have them by my side for all of it because I wouldn't be where I am and I won't get to where I'm going to get to without them. So definitely them first and foremost. And there's a lot of broadcasters out there that I look up to and wanted to be like. And I think it's just a combination of all those different broadcasters out there. I like certain things from each of them, and I kind of want to blend it all together and be the best that I can be.
So as you know, Creed Willems, when I talked to him, I asked him do you look up to Adley? Has Adley gave you any advice? So I want to ask you, in that site, has Kevin Brown gave you any good advice, any good stories with him?
Yeah. So Kevin has been a really great resource for me over the last couple years. So I actually met Kevin in June of 2022, and at the time I was working for the sports broadcasting camp that I used to go to as a camper, and I've gotten a chance to do some work for them over the years as a counselor and teach broadcasting, kind of a full circle thing for me. But at the time, it had been almost 3 years since I had called games in professional baseball. The pandemic wiped a year out. The next year after that, I just didn't get any offers. And then, 2022, I got an offer, accepted a position, and it just turned out to be a really bad situation. I was misled and kind of taken advantage of even before the season started. So I backed away. I was dealing with some mental health stuff at the time, and I knew I just had to get out of it. But I was down bad for like a good 2 full months before I started to turn things around. And at the time that I started to turn around and start feeling better about myself and where I was headed, is when I met Kevin at this camp, and he was a guest speaker. And afterwards, I pulled him aside and introduced myself. And I was just looking for someone to listen. That was the biggest thing, to somebody in a position like his, a major league broadcaster, to hear what I had been through and what my career goals are. And I told him straight up, I'm like, hey, this is this situation that I was dealt this year. I'm struggling with my mental health. I just need some advice and guidance and somebody to listen. And Kevin, I'll always be grateful that he did. He listened, he heard me out, and he validated, the way I was feeling about things. And, Kevin gets it because he spent a lot of years in minor league baseball. And there was a point in his career where he almost quit and hung it up. And somebody convinced him not to, he thought he wasn't good enough or wasn't going to get where he wanted to be. So, he understood where I was coming from, in a lot of different ways. So just the fact that he took the time to listen and talk to me and, become a connection and a resource and honestly a mentor in some ways. I don't know if he knows how much of an impact that he's had on me just from that conversation we had. And a year later, last June of 2023, I was at Camden Yards. The Orioles hosted me to do a demo broadcast there. And, exactly a year later, after meeting Kevin, I had a chance to, talk to him and connect in person again and tell him face to face how much that conversation meant to me because, we've exchanged emails over the last couple of years. When I got the gig in Aberdeen, I emailed him and told him about it. And he said, congratulations, I'm thrilled for you. I heard the news a few days ago, which was really cool that he heard the news from somewhere else and not just from me first. But yeah, I think it was such a small conversation. And, Kevin, just by listening to me for 5-10 minutes, didn't think he was changing the trajectory of my career and my life. But, in some ways, I think he did because that was the first point where I really realized that, hey, I can get through this rough patch. And, if somebody like Kevin Brown, almost quit and didn't give up and made it to the big leagues, and, knows what I'm going through, then, I can get there too. So just forever grateful for that. And, next time I see him and, the times after that, I definitely will not miss an opportunity to tell him that.
So as you were talking about mental health, and I'm actually kind of glad, as much as I wanted to record yesterday, I'm kind of glad it didn't, because I saw your post today about mental health, and especially me as a college student, but struggling with anxiety, depression. I really thought your post was really cool, and especially like a broadcaster, and someone that's in the baseball world, bringing up mental health. That brings up a lot of courage and credit. So first off, credit to you for that.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's so important. It's something that's not talked about enough. And, for most of my life, I didn't really know what mental health was. And then once I realized how it was affecting my life and how much it was affecting my life, that's when things really started to change and go in a positive direction.
So I know you were talking about how you kind of had to step back in order to prioritize your mental health. In the time you stepped back, what did you learn about yourself and your mental health?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I learned was that although my confidence was shattered at a certain point, and I didn't know that I could go any lower in terms of feeling confident about myself as a broadcaster, or even as a person. Even though that was shattered, um, like I said earlier, I never lost my passion for building a career in broadcasting and a career in baseball. And because of that, because of never losing the passion, I never lost the motivation to keep picking myself up and keep trying and keep chipping away and trying to bust down that door that's in front of me and the obstacles in front of me. So because of never losing the passion, I never lost the motivation, and that's what helped me build the confidence back up. So I realized that you can continue to build, and if you lose something, or if your confidence drops, or something drops in any sense of your life, you can get it back. So I think that was huge for me.
When did you realize the moment that you can build stuff back up? And once you realize that moment, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I think I talking with my therapist at the time, who was helping me through the issues that I was dealing with, and most of it was career related stuff that I was down about. The thing he said to me was that, you're only responsible for the effort, not the outcome. And essentially what that means is control the controllables. I like it better the other way. You're only responsible for the effort, not the outcome, because it means that, hey, as long as I'm doing everything I can and putting in the effort, sending the emails, updating my resume and demo reels, putting work in behind the scenes, extra prep work, extra interviews, extra anything, to continue to put myself in a good position. I control the effort. As long as I'm doing that, I can be kind of satisfied with, what comes next, because the outcome is not in my control. And, there are times where I waver on that mindset, and I get away from it and I get down on myself. But I continually try to remind myself that, that's, I just have to worry about, putting the effort in, and the outcome eventually is going to happen in my favor.
I also know you teamed up with a mental health clothing brand. Can you explain the purpose behind the brand and who came up with the idea?
Yeah, so it was my idea, for the partnership and for the kind of the sponsorship agreement, and the person who runs the I Am Human brand that I've partnered with. She and I went to high school together, and we didn't know each other too well. I mean, I haven't seen her since high school, but when she came out with the clothing line and started her Instagram account, I followed it immediately, and I really loved the idea behind it and where she was coming from and her goals and mission with the brand, and it just stood out to me. And so when I had an opportunity to, try to tie it in with what I was doing, and with my, with how much I prioritize mental health, I thought it was a great idea for us to, link up for a partnership. So I reached out to her, and we figured out something that was mutually beneficial, and it's just the beginning right now, and I think that we can really do some awesome things together.
I find it really cool that, especially a thing with mental health, you wouldn't really like put mental health with clothing. So I find it so cool how you guys connected that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me is, I'd never seen anything like that out there, and I thought it was great, wearing that brand, and showcasing that brand. I think it just, I think it's going to tear down some barriers for some people, who maybe don't want to get mental health help because they're afraid, or there's a stigma about it. But I think, I'm proud to rep the I Am Human brand. It's just really cool, and I think we're going to do some really cool things together.
So Aberdeen right now, fifth in the South Atlantic League, South Atlantic League North, and currently 4-6 on the season. My question for you is it easier for you when the team's bad than when the team is good?
It's definitely easier when the team's winning games, in any sport, at any level. But in baseball, it's tough. You play so many games. You string a few losses together, but then next couple weeks you can string a bunch of wins together. As long as they're competitive games, that's really, I think, all you can ask for as a broadcaster. And this Orioles farm system is so stacked with talent. So I've had the opportunity to call so many fun games, even games that the Ironbirds lose. So just a lot of talented players, and the end score in a game, definitely doesn't dictate whether it was a good or a bad game to call, or a fun or a not fun game to call.
So talking about that, Enrique Bradfield Jr., names like Creed Willems, Hudson Haskins. First off, it must be really fun to watch them. But Bradfield, talking about his speed, you can see it on the TV, but I don't know if it always equivalates to the actual insight seeing him run. So how fast is he in person?
Yeah, no, I mean, everything you see on TV, he is that fast in real life. It's not deceiving. Seeing it on TV or watching the highlights on social media, he can impact the game in so many ways. His first step out of the box, his first step in the outfield, going after a ball, the jumps he gets, stealing bags, being able to go first to home on a ball that some guys wouldn't even get first to third on. It's just really impressive to watch, and he puts so much pressure on the opposing team.
I got to ask, who would win in a race, Mateo or Bradfield Jr.?
Oh man, I haven't seen Mateo up close. I've seen Bradfield up close for a little while now. I got to take Enrique.
So talking about you, you did talk about your favorite call a little bit with the Jackson Holiday stuff. Why was that your favorite call though?
Yeah, I mean, just everything about that moment. Walk off Jackson Holiday night game, middle of the season, against a team we had played tough all season to that point. And but obviously the biggest part of it was that I was able to weave in some Luke Combs lyrics in the home run call. And the song "Going Going Gone," in the song he says "like a runaway southbound train" as one of the the lyrics of the song. And I said, like a runaway southbound train. That ball is going, gone. Fire me up, Jackson Holiday. And fire me up is my signature home run call. So to be able to weave in the Luke Combs lyrics with my call and just have it blow up all over social media, it was really cool. It blew up that night. He saw it the next day and said it was the best home run call he's ever heard. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, sometimes I still can't believe it happened. Forever grateful that it did. And it was just so cool to be able to, make that reference and, make a call that resonated with a lot of people. And, it was just unique.
So you've got the best or the pleasure of calling a ton of Bradfield Junior games. We talked about his speed, but what does he bring to the Ironbirds team?
He just brings an all-around great skill set. He's just such a good baseball player. The speed is one thing, but he's really coming on strong with the bat. I think he's going to be a really good hitter as he continues to develop. And he's just a really good teammate and good person. Good guy to be around. Very low key. Doesn't get too high or too low. Very, very good under pressure. He played in a lot of high pressure games at Vanderbilt throughout his time there. So, he's ready for any moment and, just really, really humble kid and really polite and respectful person to be around.
So what players in Aberdeen should fans look forward to for when, I mean, they're not going to come up right away, but when they come up, what players should fans look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, as a broadcaster and, building, friendships and working relationships with these guys, I want to say them all because, I'm always rooting for these guys and I want to see these guys move up. But, in terms of guys I've seen this year so far, last year, I really, really like Dylan Beavers. I think he's got a chance to have a really solid career. Just from the strides he made last year, early season to late season, I like him a lot. There's a lot of pitchers that I saw last year in Aberdeen that I think fans should keep an eye on. I think the one that comes to mind the most, Trace Bright. He's a guy that flew up prospect ranking boards this year. That dude is flat out nasty. So keep an eye on those two guys.
I've never heard of Trace before, so I'm actually excited to watch highlights of that. So how do you practice your play-by-play skills?
The biggest thing for me is self-evaluation, going back and listening to how I sound on any given night in a scenario. I take notes every night in a journal of things I think I did well, what I want to improve on, how I can improve. And, self-reflection is huge. I also take advice and get feedback and constructive criticism from other people in the industry, broadcasters, production people, agents, things like that. And then also it's just continuing to get reps, find ways to call games, calling different sports and learning how to prep for different sports. And, it just kind of all goes together. And that's kind of the broadcaster way of, getting better and practicing.
So, as I told you, as I texted you, I was talking about how I put the Marlins-Giants game on, was trying to broadcast it with the sound off. I didn't even have the lineups up, which was a dumb thing by me. It just shows how much preparation goes into it. So talk about all the preparation you have to do before you go into broadcasting a game.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, as the voice of the Ironbirds, I write player bios for all the guys throughout the season, not just the guys that start the year with us, but when a guy comes up, I get some info together on him and write up a bio. So I have things to go off of throughout the season. There's so much other stuff though, like, interviews with guys, talking to players just around the batting cage. You can get so many good talking points for the broadcast just by getting to know these guys and finding interesting things that other people can't find online. And I think that's, the stories that I can tell and the info that I can get on these guys is the best thing that I can do. So, any information that you can have in front of you is good to have to go off of. And, there's definitely the prep is such a huge part of it.
So, of course, Aberdeen's high A coming right after Delmarva. With that in mind, what do you expect from the players that come through Aberdeen, not including rehabs?
Yeah, the guys that come through Aberdeen, I think everybody that came through last year and late in 2022 and so far this year, when they get to high A, they're ready to compete and play. The Orioles do such a good job in helping these guys get better on and off the field. Making sure they're staying in shape, getting the care that they need, athletic training, strength training, nutrition, mental health. They do such a good job putting these guys in the best position to succeed. So when guys come up to Aberdeen, they're ready to compete, and I think they're just hungry to continue getting better and moving up.
I also know they have fun. I mean, players still have fun in the big leagues. But my example of this, Maxwell Costas, loves juggling everything. Always has a smile on his face. Have you learned anything from him? What do you see from him?
Yeah, Maxwell was one of the best interviews that I did last year. Never got him for an episode all mic'd up, which I was really bummed about. But we did a pregame interview one time. I mean, I barely had to ask questions. He can just talk forever, which is awesome. I mean, that's what you want as a broadcaster, the guys that can just continue to give you fun, original answers. But even just hanging around the batting cage, the batting turtle during BP, and he went to Maryland, I went to Penn State. So, that Big Ten rivalry, we'd always talk about that, college football, things like that. So just a really fun guy to be around, a good person. And it was easy to see from the start how outgoing of a person he is. And it's so awesome to see that.
So for you, what goes into making questions for the players that you interview?
Yeah, I think sometimes, if something just pops into my head, I write it down. And the goal is to make every interview different and have, there's I think a foundation for certain questions that I ask everybody. But the goal is to, do research on these guys and find out interesting things about them that lead to some unique questions. And the goal is to get them talking about themselves, their family, their teammates, their friends, because I want to show who these guys really are, and who the people in their lives that have helped them get to this point, and what they like doing away from baseball, things like that. So I just try to come up with questions that can really get these guys showing who they are overall, not just as a baseball player.
And then again, before we go into the closing, I do want to appreciate you for your work. The amount of content you put out is just amazing. Especially for me as a podcaster, like I can take things from that. Like I know you had an interview and then you put clips in between the interviews. Like honestly, I might take that idea. So thank you. But with that, let's get into the closing. Hey, Birdland, thank you for listening to another episode. I wanted to personally thank Michael for coming on, especially as the first take didn't record. If you haven't, you should make sure to watch Ironbirds games in order to hear Michael's legendary voice. Besides that, what other platforms can we listen to you or find you on?
Yeah, so I'm on pretty much all the platforms. You can check out my YouTube channel, just search my name, and you can find all the episodes of All Mic'd Up. You can find my broadcast highlights, other interviews and broadcast stuff that I've done. And then on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, you can follow me at Mic'd Up Sports. So MIKED Up Sports. So that's where you can follow me and, check out all the stuff that I'm doing, see what's going on with the Ironbirds. And, I'm always looking to just continue to post content and get more stuff out there and get my name, face, and voice out there to continue to move up in my career.
That's so cool. So this week's trivia of the week asked, what team did Jordan Westburg debut against? A, Twins, B, Reds, C, Yankees, and D, White Sox. Michael, you said the Reds, which was correct. Were you there the whole game?
Yeah, so that was actually the game that the Orioles hosted me to do a demo broadcast at Camden Yards. So I called Jordan Westburg's first big league game and his first big league hit. It was just a demo recording into my laptop. Not live or anything, but I'll always be able to say that I did that. So I love that was the trivia question because I was there. So I wasn't going to get that one wrong.
So you said like you recorded all of that. I know it was what, 4 or 5 hour game.
It was it was like a 2-hour rain delay.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that was a lot in the middle of it, but it was a really fun experience.
What'd you do during the rain delay?
Hung out in the press box, talked to, I know some Baltimore media people. So, talking with them, just kind of getting a chance to network and take in that whole day at the ballpark.
I wanted to thank you again for coming on. I really do appreciate the time that you took out of your day. And I will make sure to come visit you at an Ironbirds game. I've been really wanting to go this season. Mainly to see Bradfield, but also I guess now to see you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Come through anytime.
And thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin. This was a lot of fun. I always love talking about my career and, helping, helping aspiring broadcasters, try to get to where I am, because I was in their shoes someday. So as much as I can pay it forward, I'm ready to do it.
I'll talk to you soon, and I'll let you know when I get to the ballpark.
All right, Justin. Thanks, my man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. See ya.